Welcome to Open Mind Industries podcast, The Mind Unleashed. Sit back, relax, and unleash your mind.
Well, yeah, because I usually have Sunday, Mondays, so today's technically my first day off.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to have 3 days off because I picked up a whole bunch of mids for this week, so.
Hey, make that money. It's
Yay, me!
It's called money. I took notes for people. This is going to be a very nerdy one, guys. Especially for girl gamers, guy gamers, just some fun stuff.
Gamers in general.
We've got into. And if you want to explain that little thing behind you, because she was trying to explain it to me earlier.
So behind me, let's see if I can move my camera a little bit. If for those of you who are watching at home, I have a very large, very beautiful collage of the Voltron pilots from the new Netflix reboot, either or. But yeah, I'm really into that because I used to watch the 80s Voltron, so I gave this one a chance, and I'm hooked. And this is my baby, and it's my piece de resistance from MegaCon. So shout out to MegaCon in Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my first actual year going this year. I haven't went in a long time. And a friend of mine took me over, and then we actually bumped into you out of the blue.
It was actually my first time going to MegaCon, technically, in Orlando. Like, I've lived here for over 3 years, and I hadn't really gone to a con in Orlando, funny enough. Like, all the cons that I'd gone to, they were in Tampa.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I've got one in my backyard. Might as well go.
And that's one thing we heard on the bus. Like, we were chilling on the bus, and all these guys were like, why do you come down to Orlando? Like, what's the big deal about it? And they're like, well, it's one of the biggest ones, here. It's not like you go to Miami, and there's this and this and this. And I didn't understand that, really, because I'm geeky. I'm definitely not a nerd by any means. Like, I've got put in my place by nerds as a kid and stuff, so... I mean,
if we think about it, there's, like, a different definition between geek and nerd.
Yeah.
So...
Well, geeks have fun with everything. Nerds kind of more of... They're in that genre. They're one genre. Geeks will go out and, like, explore it.
Yeah.
And, like, different things of everything. And I think that was explained best by Chris Hardwick on Nerdist, and he explained geek and nerd, and he was like... It depends on what assholes you have around you, and it was kind of cool sitting there with all the people that I was talking to, because I got a friend who's a makeup artist, and took me around to the con. It was amazing, talking to all these people and seeing all these 3D printers, because as you guys know, I 3D print, and a lot of them were like, oh, what do you print? What do you do? And I talking to all these artists, and I had to find out I fit in their genre, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I don't consider myself so much in the nerd category. Depends on the topic, I guess, but definitely a geek. I've grown up a geek, so I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I can hide it behind the makeup and the serious face at work, but end of the day, you come to get to know me, you're like, oh god, you are definitely not what you show up to be.
What made you getting to what was your geekism, nerdism? Like, what made you get into it?
Wow. So I didn't know it as a kid that I kind of was one. I'd say I was definitely hi. Hello. Sorry. Dog is like poking her head up at me. I definitely have to say I started as a kid, but that one was definitely more, I'd say maybe borderline nerdy, but definitely geek. As a kid, I was very much into reading. I was a bibliophile, basically. Twice a week on the Air Force Base, me and my mom would go to the library. I'd check out books. I would read anything I could get my hands on to. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was already kind of transitioning into geekdom because, some of my favorite movies growing up were Last Unicorn, and I still have The Hobbit VHS written by the same author who did The Last Unicorn, which is Peter Beagle. But definitely the geekism. Sorry. For those of you who can't see, the dog is just definitely like pawing at me like, love me.
Love me now, it's a podcast.
She's like, I don't know why you're paying attention to other things, but like pay attention to me. Either that or she's just staring at my food.
Well, that would help.
So, for sure, definitely. When I moved to Puerto Rico and my family's there, I have a cousin who he got me more into the geeky side of who I am now. He had video game consoles. He bought and collected. Eventually, even had his own renting center in his in his own backyard. He built like a shed, and people would come and rent videos. They would literally rent VHSs from his backyard. It was great. But he had like a giant collection of anime and video games, and that's where it really came into play. So I'd say around middle school for me. So probably like around my 12 to 15 years old or so ish, give or take. I know in elementary school I started geeking out on video games because that's when my parents bought me my PlayStation, which I still remember to this day. I didn't want.
Same.
I did not want it because that's when it was that whole PlayStation 1 N64 debate.
Yes.
And I was like, everybody's hyped for N64. I want the N64. My parents were like, no, it's a few dollars.
That's the thing.
Like more expensive.
My dad was the same.
So they
way.
were like, no, you get the PlayStation. Yeah. And I was like, fine, okay. And my first two games for that were Final Fantasy VII and Spyro. Which was hilarious because they had the huge oversight to buy me the games, buy me the console, and no memory card. For like a month, I would have to keep restarting the game every time I started playing. And it was so frustrating. And my parents couldn't understand why I needed the memory card.
I had to mow so many lawns to get a fucking memory card, guys.
I was so frustrated. It was so hard. But before that, I had rented a console from Blockbuster back when, Blockbuster existed, and they were renting consoles.
That was the shit, yeah.
It was great.
It was the best
I had
ever.
rented it for a few days because my parents wanted to be sure that, it'd be a decent console. Okay, fine, hi, yes. They wanted to be sure it was a decent console. So I had rented it, and I remember just like yesterday, I rented that console, and the game that I rented it with, that was basically my first ever PlayStation game, was Parappa the Rapper. Oh my god. I don't even remember why that game jumped at me, because I remember looking at Grandia, and I remember looking at Final Fantasy, and I was like, oh, these games look cute, but I'm gonna get this one with the weird rapping puppy dog. And then it just escalated from there. My cousin...
What she has puppies like in her life.
I mean, no, I've always had dogs. There was periods of times in my life where I didn't have dogs, but when I was born, we already had 3 toy poodles. So, basically, I'm a dog person. I don't care for cats very much. But
everything. Dog, cats,
even though I have periods in my time where I don't have dogs, I can't imagine my life without a dog.
Yeah. That's most people, and they're like, I like dogs, I like cats. I'm like, I like it all. I've had all. I mean, I've had iguanas. I mean, I haven't had cats. I haven't had cats, but I've had parakeets. I've had hamsters. I've had lovebirds. I can't have birds anymore because my birds would always kill them.
I've had cockatiels. Those little... Listen, cockatiels are crazy. I had a mated pair of cockatiels, and at one point, one of them killed the other.
That's what happened to me one night. My neighbor felt bad for me, and he ended up getting me a bird. He went to the pet store, and we lived in an apartment. And all of a sudden, we had a female bird, too, and they're like, oh, you guys can let them, mate, and they'll be Romeo and Juliet. So we decided to, leave the house and go to my grandparents' place. Well, about 8 o'clock gets home, we see, nothing but fucking blood, and, the cage is ripped open, and we're like, oh, shit, they, literally killed each other. And I was
yeah.
Wow. I was like, yeah, my mom's like, no more birds.
Yeah, I didn't find out until I was an adult. After I'd had my hamsters. Thank God we'd only ever had them one at a time. But they wouldn't last very long. No. They'd spaz and have heart attacks and things, apparently. They're very proud of that. But I didn't find out until as an adult that if I'd had more than one hamster, I would have probably been traumatized because they will, if they're stressed enough, they will eat each other.
Yes.
And I didn't know that, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's weird. I've worked with some pet stores, and
it's always really funny when people decide to give them. Yeah, it's always really funny when people decide to give their kids as their first pet a hamster or a rabbit or something. And I'm like, now that I know these things, I'm like, I don't know if that would be a good idea. What if they eat each other?
I mean, I've had
what if your kid sees that?
My first animal was a cat. Then I had many dogs, and a retired police dog that was fucking awesome as shit. And then. Yeah, everybody's like, why don't you get any more dogs? I'm like, ain't got room, ain't got the time. That's just the way it is for us. Some people don't, because their dogs are a big responsibility. You're going on vacation, you got things to do, and you're like, don't piss on the couch.
That's the only downside. You either have to take it with you, or you got to find a sitter, and yeah, that's the only downside to having a dog. Mine can't have a sitter. Mine literally has to go with me because she's just that attached. Like, technically we're attached to each other. So like I have friends who were like, I would offer
It's like
to babysit her, no problem, but I don't think she'd survive without you here.
Yeah, it's
That
like
one, and I was like, yikes.
take the head off the snake, and it's like, my soul.
Yeah, basically, like, you know, dogs are very attached to their people, so it's kind of a sad thing in a way, because if you like leave them, it's very heartbreaking to see.
So back to our PlayStation story as we went on our little doggy tangent because the dog was walking around. And we're talking.
She's going to be popping in and out a lot. You're going to probably hear her at some point.
Freaking, when you got into your gaming thing and that one game like clicked to you, you're like, holy shit! Was that like your go-to, and then it was like, let me try this genre or RPGs or?
So it was a weird time when I first started with my PlayStation. Like I said, I was very iffy on it just because I'd wanted the Nintendo 64 because that's what everybody was talking about.
I know it's a shitty console, guys, but the Sega Saturn I wanted. So.
Yeah, and like my cousin had the N64, so I'd been playing before I even got my PlayStation. I'd been at his place playing Diddy Kong Racing a lot. So, you know, I was kind of attached emotionally already to that Nintendo. So when I got the PlayStation, I was very much like, I don't know how to feel about you. Like, you know, it's when you get like that one friend where like they push it on you when you're a kid, when you're like, hi, look, this is so-and-so, go play with them. And you're just like, all right, I guess. I have no one else to play with. And you're just like, I don't know how to feel about you.
No.
So like I started it, and I'll admit I did have an immediate click with Spyro. I don't believe I had played it until I actually got the game. Like my parents just had stood at the counter talking to the employees for a good half an hour about like what a potentially good game for me and my little brother would be. So like they decided on that. I don't know why they decided on Final Fantasy VII. I think it's because I wanted it personally, and I don't remember why I wanted it.
It's funny because I just got a game for my PS Vita, which is fucking Tumby, and everybody's like, why'd you buy that? I'm like, it was $4, and I've always wanted it as a kid. And we just couldn't. I
mean, you know, when you're an adult and you get that nostalgia, I'll be honest, I'd never played Chrono Trigger as a kid, and I didn't have the money to afford it when it was on PlayStation 1 because, you know, parents were the ones buying my games, so I had to like pick and choose what I would eventually get.
Yeah, I mean,
so like when I was now as an adult, when it was on PlayStation and it was like for the Vita, and it was like $5, I bought it and I played it in college for the first time, and I was like, huh, that's what I missed out.
That's kind of me with Tumby right now. I'm playing Tumby on the Vita, and I'm like, wow, this is really good graphics.
I am a little sad though, because like some of those PSP games, like you can't play them on the Vita, and I still have my PSP discs.
Have an emulator. So there's one guy out there who's like been emulating all his shit, but there's a certain version he emulated, and he's like, it took him I think over a few months to emulate a few things. He's like, yeah, you can do it, but the problem is getting the right firmware, and he's like, that was the hardest part on Craigslist, trying to find the correct Vita with the correct firmware. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I was like, that sucks. I wish Sony, honestly, for us gamers, man, would just like, fuck it, here's our catalog.
I still have my PSP. It just won't read the discs anymore. Like, I tried to pop a disc in it like a few months ago, and it sounded like it was dying, and I just kind of freaked out and took the disc out. I was like, oh god, don't do the thing. I was scared because it was one of my favorite ones, because I'll admit, up until the last 3 games, one of my favorite games, or at least one of my favorite series, was the Star Ocean series.
That I played, I think, back in 99? 90.
I had bought the second story one for the PlayStation 1, the one that came like 2 discs. I had bought that in a bargain bin at a Toys R Us. And I had bought it on a whim. I bought it on a whim because I had packed up my PlayStation because we were going to my uncle's beach house for a few weeks in the summer, and I was really bored, and I didn't have a lot of games at the time. So we popped by a Toys R Us on our way so I could get another game so I could play when I didn't want to go to the beach, because I'm not a beach person. Like, I'll sit in the sand, I'll read, but I'm not big on going into the water.
Yeah, it's like I don't want no jaws onto my eyes.
I don't care for the sand in places that you don't want it in. And the salt water is just not, you know, salt water is just not fun on your face. But yeah, I bought it on a whim and I really loved it. I fell in love with that game. That was in elementary school, I think. No, it was in middle school. And then they remade it for PSP with voice actors, I remember. And I'm just like, I loved that game. I got it. I had the voice actor for Claude sign it, who also did Shinji in Neon Genesis Evangelion. And he also did Magic in one of my favorite series as a little kid, which was Sorcerer Stabber Orphan, which I knew because of my cousin. And when I went in and I got him to sign the game box, I also got him to sign one of the manga for Orphan, and he looked at it and he's like, I did this? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, God, wow, that's old. That brings back so much flashbacks.
Yeah. I think my favorite voice actor was definitely, some of you guys might know him from Metal Gear Solid, but David Hayter, like, that was like my game, because I'm a huge Hideo Kojima fan, like, and even the new game that's coming out, I'm like,
oh my God,
this is gonna get crazy, and I'm like, I still have to meet Metal Gear.
Listen, I avoid that genre, and I've been following Death Stranding like a crazy person, and I'm just like, I might actually have to like sit down and force myself to play it.
I don't know what the fuck he's really doing, because like once he left Konami, we're like, all right, because this is what Hideo did. So it's like, and then we're like Norman Reedus and like PT, which we both already played. PT would scare the fucking shit out of you. Like no matter like, and I'm a kind of guy that I'll jump at fucking anything, but that game, once you saw Norman Reedus and you're like, oh, the game's been canceled by Guillermo and all them, they're like, no, we're not doing it. And then like a few months later, Hideo was like, yeah, I'm done with Metal Gear Solid. I'm not going to do this shit anymore. And then you were like, where's Norman going? And they're like, well, we're doing blah. And you're like, oh, shit. Because Hideo is one of those guys, even when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, he would leave small fucking Easter eggs like, for months and days. And he's one of those developers that are like, I'm going to make you work for this. I'm like, if you're a fucking fan, you'll find it out. I'm going to make you... And then when he speaks very little English, he's Japanese, but he knows how to get us followers fucking, like, hooked to him. Even this game, too, it's like, the first trailer came out at E3, you're like, wait, what the hell is this game? And why is Norman Reedus holding a dead baby or holding a baby? And I'm like, I don't even care what it's about. I want it. Then the second trailer came out, like a little bit of gameplay. And you're like, oh. And then even
I was hooked from the first one when you saw like the Norman Reedus, and I was like, whoa, what is happening in this? And I knew it was kind of like, it definitely had sort of like that shocking factor to it. Like it was trying to like shock you and make you kind of go, whoa, this is a little like almost horror, but not really horror. Yeah. More like suspense, I guess.
Like Metal Gear Solid 5, he ended up doing that. There's some fucking level. It's called the Skulls, and these freaking people have been like computerized. It's fucking creepy as shit. They can jump from one map to the other map. You're like, shit, don't move, hide in the bush. Like,
see, I never got to play any of the Metal Gear games, but I did have a friend that I watched play because, and the only reason they got me to watch them play it is because they mentioned that weird little trick where if you're, oh god, what was it? The second guy, what was his name? Raiden? Was it? Raiden? Okay. Wow. Okay, my gaming knowledge isn't too bad anymore because I'm a little rusty on certain games. But they had mentioned that weird little thing where he like you have to stealth him naked somewhere, and then if you hit in certain angles, you'll see that he has no genitalia.
Yeah, it's like,
and I was
like
oddly fascinated by wanting to know like is this a thing?
Hideo would like. The first game, you would unplug your paddle, and then you would stick it in like port 2, and then the character would read your like memory cards, Psycho Mantis would read your memory cards. And there was a video on Facebook that just came out with the two guys in the freaking store trying to rob it. And somebody put it over to like Metal Gear Solid. So I commented back, it was like a Metal Gear Solid, the theme of like the alert theme, and I'm like, the dude should have plugged it into port, plugged his controller into port 2, and I got like over 300 fucking likes. People were dying on Facebook. I was like, that was a deep pull. I'm like, well, if you're Metal Gear Solid, then you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I bet.
But it's like, yeah, like he could just that Metal Gear Solid 2. He has to run through like the hangar. He's butt naked because he's trying to find his clothing, but he's also going through a psychological breakdown because he's finding out, is this a simulation? Am I inside a video game? Or like Hideo he was fucking people up in this game. It was crazy.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, video games have always been like an integral part of my life. Even before I got my PlayStation, I'll admit I had played some video games. I just hadn't played them as often because my dad had 2 Atari systems. Oh, okay. So I would play on his Ataris. So I had been playing Atari way before I even played PlayStation. I just didn't play it as often, and
First
I guess
console,
I guess my mom really wanted me to kind of be like a girl, so like, you know, they didn't really introduce me to video games very much until like that PlayStation. And I think sometimes my mom still regrets having introduced me to that PlayStation, because sometimes she's like, "You like video games more than you like socializing," and I'm like, "Video games are like visual books. Like I don't,
Not only
you know,
that,
why?"
I'm going to get into another topic with us. You know, now that we know that like the PlayStation came out and the N64, and then the first advent of the PS2 using the networking, you know, what do you think? You know, now being able to go online, talking to anybody across the world, and being able to play at any time zone. You know, as you said, your mom said, "Oh, I wish you were more social. I wish you were." Now, how do you think more kids, more people get to like experience that now? Like, what's your opinion on that?
It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword, to be fair. I have nothing against being able to just like interact with anybody I want whenever I want in the world. On certain games, obviously, because not all games can do it. I think it's really ingenious that you can do it, but I do also feel kind of bad because, you know, you've got all these little kids playing as well, because you have to take into account that there's a whole spectrum of people playing video games. Like, for instance, me, I'm an adult, and sometimes I forget that not all adults play anymore or have time to play, to be fair. So, you know, when you go online and it's a shock because you see all these little kids and you hear all these kids and you kind of remember, like, consoles are technically for children. You know, they're marketed towards little kids and the younger generation, and you're just kind of sitting in that limbo, like, and that's not to say there isn't obviously like a whole bunch of adult gamers. There are, obviously. You know, how else would the industry have survived at this point? With all these iPads and iPhones and things that kids are now into, as opposed to video games themselves.
Now it's like the parents like, "Oh, you're crying."
And technically, you can play a lot of console games on your phone or your iPad if you buy them, because now a lot of them are available on all these systems. So, you know, adults have definitely kept the console industry itself afloat. But I mean, I like it, but sometimes I don't, just because of the way people treat each other online. You know, it's really difficult.
I think when I first got into the Xbox 360, and I had to work my ass off to get an Xbox 360. I didn't know, because this is before, like, you know, there were party chat systems like that, but Microsoft had it down to a science to where, like, it comes with a headset and you get to talk to people playing Halo. I didn't know fucking teabagging. I didn't know any of this shit. And the minute I got Halo and fucking spamming, and I'm like, day one, I mean, I already fell in love with Halo, and I was like, this is Halo. Wow, this is great. Loving it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I would spend, you know, 2-3 in the morning with my brother-in-law, who lived in San Diego at the time, because he was in the Marine Corps, you know, and he had his kid and stuff like that, and we'd be like, all right, well, my time zone's this, your time zone's this, because you're the East Coast. Wake your fucking ass up, get some sleep, and then we'll play. And I was like, wow, I didn't know there were spammers. I didn't know there were fucking hate mailers. And then there was people that if they found out you were gay, they'd fucking bash you for that. And then Sony and Microsoft would jump in and was like, listen, yeah, don't post your shit. Don't, you know, leave your, you know, I was like, wow. And then why PlayStation 3 didn't have the party chat system. It was such a fucking downfall for it, too. Because it was like, oh, man, where's this party chat? You know? It's just, I mean,
yeah.
People were just like you said, double-edged sword. Is either like, you want to bond and you want to be with people, but at the same time, it's kind of a way for you. You don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. So I'm going to just fucking spam you or harm you in any way I can.
Yeah, it's like, because people don't see each other and they don't necessarily make that connection right off the bat with each other, it's just very easy to be less humane and less, you know, caring or careful of who's on the other side of that screen. Because in a way, I guess our minds kind of like don't process that that's another human on the other side.
Exactly.
So we just don't care as much. Like for me, I love playing Little Big Planet. It's one of my favorite games.
Game I literally had to. Funny story about that. It came out and I had the PS3. I worked my ass off for that. Bought it used from EB Games. Came out. The first one I got, I guess, was broken. I guess the graphics card wasn't set on it, because I got the 20 gig, and this is like when PS3s already were out. But I was like, shit, I had to work my ass off to get it. And then I remember I had to bring it all the way back to GameStop. GameStop was like, listen, we got rid of the 20 gigs because 60 gigs because I wanted the backwards compatibility to like the PS1 game because I still had Metal Gear Solid 1 that I wanted to play every so often. It was one of my favorite games. And I remember I had like, a Blockbuster down like the street and I like ended up jogging to it. I missed a copy of Little Big Planet by like 2 seconds. Some guy already rented it. And I'm like, well, I can not afford this because I only got like one game for the PS3 and it was like, I think Call of Duty 4 because it was one of the biggest hits of the year. Which I don't regret getting. I don't regret playing that game. That game was fucking amazing. And then Metal Gear Solid 4 was coming out and I was already I pre-ordered that game fucking like that. It was coming my way. Like I missed Little Big Planet by like a minute, and then like a couple of days later, like the manager was like, "Hey, I'll call you when it's back in stock," and he made sure to hide a copy just so I could play it.
I traded in my first copy, like the volume 1 of it, the original one, because I finished it, and like after the second one and third one came out, and like they added all those other features, they were just more fun.
Yeah.
When it started, it was a great game to play, multiplayer. Like it was great to go online and meet people and stuff. But now, I'll admit I don't really play it online unless I have like local people that I know that I'm going to play it with me. Just because like Little Big Planet is notorious for you getting in that game, and it's kind of like what's this game? It's kind of like I guess Grand Theft Auto, where like you'll log in and there's like 10 years olds cussing up a storm.
Yeah.
And like literally like insulting you because you're just trying to play with them. You're like, all right, we're going to play a game. Mm-hmm. And they're just literally cussing every 5 seconds at you and going, you're an adult. Why are you playing this game? Why aren't you working? And I'm like, kid, go to school. Leave me alone.
I think the funny part, we were on, I logged into Destiny 2 yesterday because a good friend of mine was on. He was playing it. So I was like, all right, let me get back in and like find out what I needed to do. And we're at a party, me and like all, we're in our 30s and 20s, so we're all playing, having a good time. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like, one of the guys we're playing with, who I'm now friends with on, the online, it takes about 20, 30 minutes for me to finally say hello to somebody. And we're playing, my buddy already knew who the guy was, and he was super chill, we're all talking. These 2 kids pop in, they're like, blah, blah, blah. Like, whoa, 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 hey guys, out. It's like,
oh my god, I hate when they just scream at you in your ear.
It's like 21 or older, guys, 21 or older, get out of the party. And my buddy's like, crap, I forget I was the party leader. I could have just kicked them out.
Yeah, that happens a lot. So, you eventually sometimes have to give up on games.
Because it's usually a little kid, and I don't...
Yep.
There's only one little kid I play with. Is my nephew. He's very mature. He's like an 8-year-old, but I play with him, and I locked on the party because I'm just like... I logged into him one day to play Fortnite, and I had over 70 friend requests in 1 hour.
Oh, yikes. Yeah, no, God, gross.
That was very gross. But I mean, going through that lifestyle, I mean, like you see the kids nowadays, they're they're playing these games and now they're able to like get home from do homework and they're like, hey, I'm now going to play a multiplayer game because now I don't need to go outside.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on like, would you rather see kids going outside? Do you rather see them more exploring, or is this the new genre?
I want a balance. Because when I was a little kid, I'll be honest, I was grateful that my parents didn't buy me a console sooner than they did. Because when I was little, I was that girl. I was that tomboy. I was riding a bike. I was climbing trees. I was skinning my knees. I was, chewing on plant life that I probably shouldn't have been chewing on. I was poking my fingers on cactuses and daring my friends to do the same and see who got their finger pricked first. We were outside all day and it was fun. And I'm not saying, don't let kids have consoles, but I feel like introduce them a little later on in life so that they learn that outside is an option and it's not just video games, because they do need to develop a sense of survival instincts, as I like to call it, because I feel like kids need to learn to survive.
I mean, you always hear those
out in the doors, and like if they scrape their knees, it's not like the end of the world. It's like, oh, ow, it hurts. All right, cool. I'm gonna go climb the next tree.
Exactly.
I feel like, when they're really young, they need to learn to play outside and socialize, because the problem is if you introduce them to games and stuff like that too young, they forget how to use their words and they forget how to talk to other people. Definitely introduce them later on in life. And once you do, learn to set limitations and times, because I mean, I'm not saying my parents did try to set limits for me and stuff, but I did get a little crazy hooked on them. There were, times in middle school where it was summer and my parents would be like, go to bed. And I'm like, it's summer. I'll do what I want. And so I'd be sitting I'd be laying in my room. I had my own TV and I'd be laying in my room and it'd be 5 o'clock in the morning and I was still playing Final Fantasy IX and my mom would come in at like 6:30 in the morning to wake me up to do chores. And she's like, why are you so tired? And I'm like, I stayed up playing games. And she's like, no, go to bed. Or she'd wake up in the middle of the night and be like, turn it off. And I'm like, but Mom. So, I mean, it happens, but like, you know, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It's normal. It's normal life. Everybody's going to get hooked on something at some point, but definitely learn to know your own boundaries. And like, I want kids to be able to like eventually be like, okay, I know this is a bad addiction that I've got. So maybe I should try and like work on that and do other things as well. So moderation is great. I don't want them to stop. Video games are amazing. I've said it before, as a literature major, I did write a paper. I want to expand on it. I want to make it a thesis eventually. But I wrote a paper on how people don't tend to realize, not all video games, obviously. There are those like quick gratification games for obvious reasons. But there are many, many games out there that basically play out as a visual and audio novel. Like you're playing a game and it's like you're basically reading a book, or you know, you're immersing yourself into a book and a story and you're part of it and you make these decisions. And it's great because sometimes, you know, books are wonderful. They do transport you to other places, and I do love books. I will never not love books. I will never consider games a substitute for books, but sometimes you've got those games where you can make the choice, and it's not the same with a book where it's very linear and it's like, well, this is what I get. Yeah. And this is how the story plays out, and I wish I'd played it out a different way. And I do like those games, like, for example, Wolf Among Us introduced me to that genre where you are the character and you make your choices, and the choices you make will affect things later on in the game. And so you've got this replayability where you can immerse yourself in the story 2, 3, a dozen times even, and things will always pan out differently, and you will always see different sides to things. And it's really interesting when you can get to do that and you can get to go, oh wow, you know, I didn't know this was going to happen. I wonder what would have happened if I made this other choice, you know?
I think most kids now are just more into like the online shooters and stuff like that. And that's because
this generation is definitely the instant gratification one.
You have a game called Fortnite, which you guys already know if you're already playing. You're one of the biggest frickin' streamable, or PUBG on Xbox. And, you know, my nephew's really big into it too, but he finds time to, like, play his wrestling games and play, like, actual, like, fun games. Like, when I got him into Little Big Planet, he was like, oh, this is fun because you made these levels. And, you know, but it's funny because I'm at work and, you know, I made a funny joke because some kid was just zoned out, probably ADD'd out. Like I have slight ADD, which is pretty bad. It gets bad at some certain hours. But I'm just like, I'm like, come on, dude, I need you to come back to reality. Reality is reality. It's not Fortnite, brother. You know? But I play Fortnite, I don't want to be here. And I made like a joke, and this fucking guy had to be like no more in his 25, 30s, cracking up so hard, laughing down the hallway. And he was like, that was the best fucking impersonation of a kid right now. I said, that's pretty much what it is. You walk up and, but I play Fortnite.
But I play Fortnite. I'm real hardcore because I play Grand Theft Auto, and I like to say cuss words every 5 seconds.
You see them at this amazing theme park that makes billions of dollars. There's things in front of them and they're like, yeah, I just want to go home and play games. It's like,
I really dislike that the industry has had to make money off of these instant gratification games. That if you think about it, if you sit down and actually play one of these instant gratification games from start to finish, you're paying way too much money over a game that you can finish in about an hour or 2 hours. Yeah. Like, if you sit down and do it start to finish and you don't, like, go, like, wandering off sideways and stuff like that, if you just do the main quest and whatever, you're just like, wow, that's, I don't know how I feel about that.
And I want to bring up a game that we got done playing, because I was like, I ended up buying it, and I heard about it, you know, months prior, and I was like, oh, is the developer actually making this game happen or not? And the game's called A Way Out. And I was like, okay, well, this game is going to force co-op. And you got to see her face, because, you know, we're going to do a speed run. We're going to do a speed run. But I was like,
we will eventually, because our audio sucked for the first time we did it. I'm so sad.
We didn't share play, but she forgot to hit, like, hey, let my voice be recorded on his side. and
we thought it was being recorded. To
well,
be
no,
fair, we both thought it was being.
It was recorded on my side, but you didn't hit the special. Like if you go on the settings, you need to put the chat settings into saying yes, my voice can be shared on his and also if he's recording. So it would work vice versa. So that's what we forgot. So if you listen to it on YouTube, you'll just hear me talking, and I'm like, yeah, penis. Yeah, because we're like walking like, oh shit, no.
Because I'm the one making all the dirty commentary, and he's just like in for the ride, basically.
Basically, I'm like, she's like, rub my butt, get your booty against me, and I'm like, what? What's going on? Oh look at his flat ass.
I mean, you basically missed me rage at that last stealth part where I just like gave up and I said, God, you're doing it, and I'm just gonna stand behind this wall and wait for you.
Yeah, I literally was. Yeah,
oh,
the Way Out was an amazing game. You guys haven't played it, definitely play it. It's a co-op only game. Probably
it's worth it if you got a really good friend.
The best thing, it wasn't overpriced. It was about $30, and I paid for it full price. I'm pretty sure it'll be on discount or deep sale, but definitely, it gives you a key to send over to one of your friends or pals so they can download a copy of the full game, so you're not using this Sony SharePlay idea. You can also play it on Xbox. I don't know how that's going to work on there because I don't have that feature, but my friends played it. You could play it locally or whatever, but fucking amazing. And that was the first game that she actually like. I was like, anybody want to play Way Out with me? You don't need a copy of the game. You just need to fucking jump in. She's like, me. We jumped in, and I was like...
I mean, to be fair, I had seen bits and pieces of it, so I was very intrigued. And it wasn't until we played, remember, that I like literally had my freak out because I didn't realize it was made from the creators of another game that I love, that we still need to get you to finish it. We should probably record that, but
it's gonna be a hard thing to do because
it was a solo game, but still it was one of my favorite games ever story wise, and especially since there wasn't really a lot of dialogue. Technically, I don't think this game actually has dialogue, funny enough. But yeah, it was from the same company, and I remember watching that one scene. I think it was the bench scene, and we kind of went staring at it. And I'm like, this reminds me of another game. And then I looked it up, and I was like, it's from the same people. Oh god!
No, it was actually me. I actually went through the trophy list, and I was like, all right, I want to see if I can grab these trophies. Like, I went trophy hunting one night with her, and we were sitting there, and I'm like,
yeah, we were doing the bench trophy.
I was like, oh, there's like a bench trophy, and it's from blah blah blah, like the Taylor two brothers. And she's like, what?
Yeah, I literally lost my shit. I was like, but I love this game, and then you've never heard of it, so I was just like very upset.
You're like, you're gonna go to work, and I'm gonna give you a flash drive. It's gonna have the soundtrack, and you're gonna cry and like hold yourself at the same time. Like, okay,
yeah.
Like, all right.
One of these days, we're gonna have to do one where even if I don't play it, like even if it's just you playing it, we'll just put like a horror game or something on, and like I'm pretty sure a lot of people will enjoy my reactions, even if I'm not playing.
Yeah, I mean, like I can easily record a,
because I'm just gonna be sitting there going, nope, nope,
don't go through the door, don't go through the door. I'm gonna be like,
Ali, I know you have to go in that door, but let me just reiterate that if this were real life, I would never go through that door.
Oh, me neither. I'd be like, boom, boom, boom. Don't go through. I'm like, hell.
I hate those kind of games. I hate those games where it's like, it's very obvious. You're like, I have to go through this door to continue the game, but I really don't want to go through the door. Because
exactly. Imagine playing something in VR. I played a horror game in VR. I played like the Silent Hillers thing in VR.
Oh, I can't play VR games, man. I'm terrified. I can't. I
played.
It's too real.
I played the Until Dawn version, and it was fucking insane.
No. Yeah. Listen, I saw I didn't get to play it myself, but I definitely saw all of Until Dawn, and M loves this game.
I played Until Dawn, and the way
that game messed with my head.
It's like you hear the thing knocking. It's like, don't open that door because if you do, she'll die, and you want to keep her alive. Yada yada yada. So I didn't, and I'm like, I came really fucked with you. I ended up doing the walkthrough because I'm like, I wanted to complete. I only had the game for I think on Game Plan for like a week, so I was like, I gotta do a speed run, and I speed runned it with under, I want to say 3 hours, because I couldn't keep it long. I was like, I had to get rid of the game. I was like, shit, I gotta get this and get a GameFly and drop it off, and it takes a couple of days to get there. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
I usually just go through the bargain bin at GameFly, because those work pretty well.
I mean, that was like, now the game I'm playing, which I beat twice already, and I'm going to play one more time, but now Delmarie is playing, is Detroit Become Human.
Oh, God, yes.
And I'd keep my mouth shut for most of the time. We tried doing share play last night, trying to get her through most of the story. Unfortunately, my connection was pretty garbage. I think it was Spectrum over here in Orlando was pretty garbage tonight.
Yeah, because it was working fine on my end whenever I share played.
Yeah, I think it was just my connection. Well, the depends on the boxes outside. They have these huge towers, and sometimes they're doing maintenance without telling you, and they're shutting down things and opening up things. You're like, God damn it. But yeah, I mean that game. Wow, that's new. The screen went full screen. Weird. Anyway.
That would have probably been me.
Like, whoop, whoop. I don't know. The screen went big screen and full screen. I'm like, whoa. I was like,
well, I rotated my camera for a minute. So that was probably me.
It's like, hello. But anyway, we're trying to get her through Detroit Become Human. She's like, oh, I've already watched some of the gameplay, but I don't really know, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, she's like, there's a lady, and we start talking about this lady, and I'm like, I'm not spoiling shit. I'm here just to sit down and watch you.
Yeah, I only know, like, maybe what could be considered maybe the first 20 minutes of the game. That's all I know. And even then, I didn't know everything because obviously since it is, choose your own actions, it's like that first time, the when we were using Connor for the first time, and the person I saw play Connor, I wasn't paying attention when they were playing it on YouTube. I was just mostly, using it as background noise while I was doing other things. So I remember, like, the way they played it ended up very differently from how I played it. I just didn't remember the choices they had made. So when I made my choices, I was like, okay, this is not what I remember. What is happening?
Well, the thing is, you haven't played any of the David Cage games. So you haven't played Heavy Rain, you haven't played Beyond Two Souls, and you have not played this one, so...
No, I have not played Beyond Souls. I have Heavy Rain because it was free on PlayStation Plus, I think.
Heavy Rain and then Beyond Two Souls are on for free now, so you can... Which pisses me off now because... when
I downloaded, I just haven't played it yet. I haven't had time. I have so many things that I have to finish.
Well, Detroit came out, and it was like, okay, you can buy it, but you can only get the deluxe version for some god knows reason. That's when it first came out, and I was like, I just want to buy the fucking game. I don't care about, like... And I was like, all right, well, if it's going to give me the soundtrack and shit for $72, it's like, what's an extra 15, But it's like, oh, no, you get Heavy Rain with it. And then a month later, it's like, Heavy Rain is now free on PS Plus. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I saw that, and I was like, oh, there's probably a bunch of people who are pissed.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, well, I mean, again, they can always take away that from the Plus menu, so...
True. I think it only lasts like 6 months from the day that you downloaded it.
No, it lasts as long as you have Plus. So as long as they have it on the server, though, you can.
Well, I know some games get taken off because it's happened where I'll play a game and sometimes I'll let it go for a few months and I'll try and come back and it says like it's no longer available for Plus. I'm like,
yeah, something like that. But yeah, so it's like Heavy Rain is fucking amazing. It will break your fucking soul on purpose. You gotta be careful with that game because there is a sequence where you gotta either chop your fucking finger off or not. Yeah. So.
Yikes. No thanks. I'm good.
Yeah. And that sequence is in Heavy Rain where he has to, the father has to do what he has to do.
Ooh.
And you're literally taking the paddle and you're like, do I slam the paddle down? Do I keep hitting the button? Do I, Detroit's got a whole other element of Android becoming human and really, really good. I know there was a scene I was telling Delmarie about where they took it they kind of edited it in France. It's the child abuse scene. And they're like, hey, we took it out because of yada yada reasons. In France, we don't really believe in this. This is kind of taboo. And David Cage knew that because he is from France. He's from Paris. So he talked about it openly. But the game's
it's really funny how it's taboo, but it's like, well, but does it happen in France? Because I'm sure it happens in France. So how is it so taboo?
Yeah, it's just something they don't like to show. It's something they don't like. They don't like.
Well, I mean, I understand the show. I'm hoping they do talk about it though, in a sense, because it's like if you don't talk about it,
they brought it up, and David was like, well, this is kind of a big thing in here and all around the country. People should understand this sequence and this timing, and it's. Detroit was a really good game. I finished it twice. I'm starting to get mostly all the damn trophies. There's a couple of trophies that I'm like, ooh, it's kind of rough to get those, but it's gonna make you both cry and tear up and stuff like that at the end. So. And she hasn't, like I said, she hasn't gone all the way through it. When she does, she's gonna be like, I hate you.
I'm gonna be very upset with my life. I already know it. Like we've barely started the game, and I already know I'm gonna be very upset with my life. We found out that there was a scene we could avoid that you didn't know about, and I avoided it somehow.
Yeah. Yeah,
when Marcus was leaving the paint shop, and I was like, I remember this. He's gonna get mauled by these people. Maybe I can like
It's like I've
you
been
know, delay
avoiding
this.
everybody, and I'm like, oh shit, you can do that. Oh shit, you can do that. It's just like it's a David Cage game. It's good. I mean, the team from Quantic Dream, they don't fuck around. Everything is a story and an aspect. And what else?
I just like that I avoided it. I was like, oh, I know he's going to be confronted, but I want to delay it as much as possible. And then I just like literally walked around it and got on the bus, and I was like,
you're like, oh,
huh.
I wanted to talk to the
I
hot
didn't
dog
have to
vendor.
do it. Okay.
I wanted to talk to the hot dog vendor. I wanted to do this. There's so many different elements of the game that's coming up. So we'll definitely talk about that more, as she plays along. I'm pretty sure. Stuff like that. But I really wanted to dig in. Like I said, you talked about your geekism and how that all started. What was it like, then when you got your first PlayStation and then coming out to like junior high and kind of like, did you find like your group? Did you find, or were you just you?
Oh God, that's complicated.
Because I know mine. I was a geeky guy, but I was also into bodybuilding and I was also into like tech shit. So,
growing up, I was a bit of a loner, just because I was in a place that. So I started my formative years in the U.S. and then I moved to Puerto Rico. No. Dog, could you not? Thanks.
It fell off the wall.
It's fine. It's because she was like moving the chair. You didn't see her, but she was like moving the chair and like sniffing at it, and so she freaked out. And I'm like, "That's what you get." But yeah, now you're scared, aren't you? There she is. Oh no, honey, no. Okay, no. Oh, that's awkward. Don't no. Okay. But yeah, let's see. I was raised in the U.S. I moved to Puerto Rico, and it's very different. Mindsets, are very different. People act very different. Puerto Rico is very much this culture, at least at the time, of, girls play with girls, boys play with boys, and you don't really cross that line. And, here I am, a girl who's very much a tomboy, who like climbs things and loves the color pink and glitter and still manages to scrape her knees and not care. And it was just very difficult trying to fit in. So when I got into video games, I did meet a few guys that we bonded over video games. We'd play video games together. I'd play at their houses, things like that. But it was just still very difficult because there was still that whole thing of like, they're boys, and I wanted well-rounded friends. I wanted boys and girls to hang out with, and girls weren't really into hanging out with me because I was different and I wasn't super crazy girly at the time. And I kind of isolated myself as well, just because it was very overwhelming to be bullied at the very beginning. So I kind of like just auto-assumed everybody was going to eventually continue to bully me. So even when I changed schools and I met new people and stuff, I was very much a wary kid. But I did have my little groups. They were not always the best groups. I did end up hanging out with more, not so much the geeks, but the outsiders for sure were my big group. Hi. Yes, hello. I hung out with basically like the Hot Topic crew, as we like to call it. So, like, a lot of the rockers, everybody in their parachute pants and their spiky bracelets and all the crazies with the goatees and the. But even though I hung out with them, I wasn't part of them, if that makes sense. Like, I'd hang out with them at school.
Makes sense. I was like that.
But I was very different from them. I had my thing. But I'd also talk with the people who, like, kind of sat down and played Yu-Gi-Oh cards back in the day when that was a thing.
Still is.
I'd mostly hang out and talk about video games and stuff like that, and that was it. And then when they'd start their own thing, I'd wander off and do my own thing. And then I found a few female friends who started getting into anime with me, and that was when Adult Swim was not Adult Swim, when Toonami was a thing.
Toonami was
and so I found my Sailor Moon and my Gundam Wing friends, and it was a crazy time. But I depended more on family than friends. So yeah, I guess it was a little difficult for me just being that girl gamer, and like I didn't really have female friends at all growing up that were into games. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I met 2 or 3 people who kind of played video games, but not really.
Standards is changing a lot.
But to be fair, I'm still at that point where I'm in my 30s and I'm an adult woman, and I still don't have female friends who game or like enjoy games to the level of passion that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still pretty difficult to find gamer girls, and a lot of the gamer girls that you see, they're not very popular. Because it's still very much considered a guy kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So you'll see a lot of female gamers on Twitch, but there is that controversy of, are they doing it because they actually enjoy video games, or are they just doing it to, show off, the cleavage and get the money mm-hmm. and things like that. And they'll only play like maybe 1 or 2 games. They don't really expand on other games. They don't talk about games.
When you get into a big genre of gaming, it's like, okay, what do you play? Do you play Call of Duty or do you play blah? What do you?
Yeah, and the shooting games, unfortunately, there's not like a lot that you can do. It's either Fortnite or Overwatch, or Halo, or PUBG.
Yeah.
So there's like not a lot. Me, I expand into different genres. I don't do a lot of multiplayer, so that might be added to it.
I believe so, because I play with a lot of girl gamers, and that's why I met a lot of the girl gamers that I play with, and I'm going to get back to the geekism with it,
Yeah.
When did you, it's like, you don't play with a lot of girls, but when it's like, do you think their geekism and nerdism has kind of blended with you more, or has that helped more?
It helps socialize a lot more with them, and it helps connect with them a little more, I think. It also kind of helps you open up to new genres and things like that maybe you don't necessarily play. And if that person connects with you on the level of like, they're very passionate about games too, you kind of introduce each other to different genres of gaming. And that definitely does help expand, and it does help make that connection with other female gamers. And it helps you feel empowered too, because sometimes it is a little lonely as a female gamer, because you'll see them. Like, you'll see them a lot in gaming stores and things like that, and you might meet them online in chat rooms. But we don't tend to be very out there on our consoles.
Very introvert is what I've...
I think a lot of us also hide because of the stigma of like... Because it's happened to me. I used to think it was very exaggerated when girls would say, oh, I don't use my mic ever when I play a game because guys will basically verbally attack me. And not necessarily in a bad way.
It's like I've had plenty of girl gamers that I play with, and the minute they found out they were girls, they were getting spam blocked, they were getting friend requests, they were getting... And I'm like, can y'all fucking chill for 1 minute? They got a vagina.
That would happen to me a lot. The only community that never did that to me, and let me tell you, it was kind of shocking for that to happen, and I really appreciated it at the time, was when I started playing DC Universe Online on PS3. I started playing it with a guy gamer, and he put me in his guild, and I was terrified because all of the other people that I could hear were grown men.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, this is it. If I turn on my mic and I say hi, that's it. That ends me playing this game.
Yeah, it's technically not true either. Like, the people that play those kind of games or those MMOs, they're more or less looking for a guild. They're looking for people, and they're actually they want to get out of their head.
Technically, just to get through the game, you need people, like a party.
And most of them don't care because they got wife and kids and too, and they're just like, listen, I just need time away from blah. I know you're who you are. And that's because you usually what it is. Because I play with a lot of girl gamers, and I'm like, oh, you're on. They're like, yeah, like I'm gonna turn my mic off for a little bit because I'm a little either tired, But yeah, those guys for your universe you jumped into, they were just all about getting people like the guild together.
Oh, they just went like, oh God, you're a girl. That's so cool. Yeah. And I was like, oh, hi. And then they were like, oh my God, we should do this and this, and they helped me. Like they did most of the work. They were like, we really need a really good healer. What do you think? And I was like, I can do that. And so they just like bulked up my character in a matter of an hour. They were like, all right, we're going to go hunting. We're going to go farming for like really good equipment for you. And they were just like spamming up my character. And, they'd be like, let's do this campaign. And I'm like, well, I don't have that expansion pack right now. And it wasn't me trying to tell them like, hey, I really want you to help me out. But it was me going like, I don't have that yet, but like if you can give me some time, I can save up for it. Next thing I knew, I'd be like pinged and it'd be like, hey, you've got this expansion pack. And I'm like, what is happening in this
like,
game?
Oh,
and I was like, oh, and they're like, yeah, shut up now, equip it and let's go. I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys saw the meme on Facebook. I posted it the other day because a friend posted it to me. It was like, if a guy is in a relationship and he wants his girlfriend to learn how to game and stuff like that, it's either because he loves her or he wants her to become his healer. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
I mean, this is true. I knew a lot of those guys in the MMOs who would be just kind of like talking to their girlfriends in the background. And they'd be like, you should join me, whatever. And the girls were like, nah, bitch, I got other things to do. And I'm like, oh, you poor thing. Meanwhile, I'm the one sitting here like, I want a guy to play video games with, but also I'm really bad at shooters, so don't make me play that, please, because I'm just going to make you angry
that was a funny
when
thing
you
with
go, hey, no, run away. And I'm going to be like, well, never mind, I'm dead.
Yeah, it was like the Way Out. She was like, I'm not really good at shooters. And then like there's the last part in the Way Out where you had to,
Oh, God.
and she literally was like going through a stress zone and my ass got blasted.
Oh, God, I gave up. I gave up on that. I was like, nope, this is on you, friend. You do you. I'm not playing that anymore.
Really, duct tape, that's it?
What?
Double-sided tape?
Well, no, it's not duct tape. But it's that blue gum stuff.
Oh, you gotta
Because technically, I haven't been able to buy a hook.
You gotta get 3M. Yeah, you gotta get the 3M tape.
Yeah, I gotta get it a hook, honestly. It's probably gonna fall off later. I'm probably gonna hear it again, and I'm just gonna stare at it and be like, well.
That's what it's gonna be. But, case in point, so it's like, you getting into that in the guild, what would you say to gamers, like girl gamers now, is like, just keep your options open or play what you play?
Don't let the pressures of, what's popular or what people say are better dictate what you play, honestly. Because I don't play a lot of the more popular games, and sometimes I do.
Yeah, she's like, have you played this? No. No. It's not that I don't have my timing, because I'm running a goddamn company of 3D printing and R&D research, and I'm emailing big fucking companies, and I'm like, hey, this is going on, or that's going on. She's like, hop on. And I'm like, give me 5 minutes to finish this up and get this either started on the printer or, and I'm
lately it's the other way around. Lately you're like, hey, get on, and I'm like,
I kind of need my dead zone, because I've been literally, either 3D modeling or just kind of in new software, and I'm just like, this is really fucking stressful, because I thought it'd be a little easier. It's not. So, that's why I kind of take a game off to, and that's because my friends too, they always tell me to kind of get away from the printers and the computers and the code and just kind of zone out in the game for a little bit. So I'm like, all right, that helps. And, that helps for me. What was the one thing I wanted to mention, now that we got all through the geekism and stuff like that, what you've been going through, was there any like big comics that you were reading and stuff like that really like pushed you through your childhood, or like depression, or, cause I have a few of my own that I usually like to read?
Wow. I can't say they pushed me through anything. I can say that at the same time that I was addicted to reading books in the library, I also had a huge collection of Sonic the Hedgehog and Archie comics, and that was like when I was in elementary school, and I mean like first grade through third grade, because I could buy them then. And then when we moved to Puerto Rico when I was in third grade, I would still read Archie comics. I couldn't find Sonic comics, sadly. But yeah, there was a period where I wasn't reading too many comics because there were no really like comic book stores near where I lived in Puerto Rico. So for a very long time, I didn't really read a lot of comics. I read like my older comics, or my dad had a collection and he introduced me to comics when I was a kid. Same time he introduced me to Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff like that. I still have his copy of the original Death of Supergirl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is. It is one of my, bigger treasures. But he had a whole lot of oldies comics, and he introduced me to those. So I'm very much into the golden age of superheroes. Same thing as now, the eternal debate where everybody's like, I like Flash. And I'm like, well, I like Flash, but Wally West Flash. And they're like, who's Wally? And I'm like, no, stop that. Because
like
now,
the DC,
only
the
like
DC
now that
hero,
everybody's into DC, they just know Barry. And I'm like, well, I knew Barry as, the 80s Barry, where he wasn't very present because by the time I was into comics, he was dead.
Yeah.
He had died and Wally had taken over. And so, like, for me, Flash is synonymous with Wally West. So, you know, I've always got that eternal debate. And now that he's back in the Rebirth comics, because everybody's like, well, he's been back for a while. And I'm like, okay, but that's a new Wally West. It's not my Wally West.
Yeah.
And I have nothing against that Wally West. However, he is very much a different character. They didn't redesign him and keep his characteristics. They just made a new character and gave him the name that's synonymous with the legacy. And I'm like, no, just make him a new character. He would have been more likable that way.
That's the hard thing. It's like I listen to a lot of Kevin Smith podcasts too, and he's kind of breaking it down because he's fusion the comic books with Wally West and then Barry Allen, and it's like, well, Wally, like I knew that from the animated series from, you know, Kevin Conroy to Mark Hamill, and it's like, oh my god, that was like my go-to as a kid. And everybody's like, what was your favorite thing? Like, I was like, dude, honestly, like Wolverine's my favorite character. And like, why? I was like, every time his claws come out, he's in agonizing pain. He even says that in the comics. You know, when his claws come, he's screaming because it fucking hurts.
I was very much a Rogue fan growing up.
Yeah.
I won't lie about that. Like my cousin had some comics when I was in my junior high, so I did read a few, not a lot, but let me think. Something that I might have back then, there wasn't really a distinct storyline that I can say. I am, however, really much reading. Like I'm still catching up on the new Flash Wars that just happened on Rebirth.
There's so much going on in that universe.
It is crazy because the big thing with comics nowadays is that they tie into different series. So you can be reading one series, but if you don't get like certain issues from another line, you're still kind of lost.
Let me see how big
I'm still trying to catch up. But I am very much reading that one right now. I did read last year the new Rebirth, the reboot comics for Gem and the Holograms, which was a guilty pleasure of mine when I was a kid.
We're not going to talk about the movie.
No, the movie has nothing to do with the comics.
And I had friends.
Let's leave the movie alone. I still haven't watched it because I saw the trailer and I washed my hands of it.
I was born in '86, and I have friends that are like, when the movie came out, and we work at Universal, and they're like all these fucking posters and PR and all
it was definitely
all my
in
friends were like, and my friend even posted a video because he was born in like the '70s, and he was like, "That's not the real her, bro. That's not even." No. He was fucking living. And this guy, my friend's like 36 now. Okay, he's in the Street Fighter, all that shit. Got married, shit happened. Greatest fucking guy I ever talked to, but he was like losing his fucking mind. He was like, no. He's like, no. He's like, nope, that's not.
I saw the trailer. I saw just the trailer, and that was enough.
Like, that's not Gem. That's not Gem or the fucking holograms. Universal fucked it up. Like he was fucking livid, and he's still.
I mean, I'll admit, I'll probably look up the movie and watch it once just to form an opinion, just to be able to form an opinion. But I don't have any hopes for it. I have like literally zero expectations of that movie.
Tomatoes gave it like a fucking 0.1. It was just that bad. Yeah.
No. I'm good.
I haven't seen the real actual rating, but I'm pretty sure it was that fucking low.
Yeah.
I know Universal Marketing was like, never again will we fucking talk. It's like, don't.
I know there's a lot of comics I would love to read if I had more money or if I had like
you
means.
Just said, Rebirth, there's Rebirth of this, Rebirth of that. And if you don't get issue 2 of this, you really.
And the thing is, comic books are pretty pricey nowadays. I mean, $4 for like
even
12 to 15 pages or so of a comic that you can read in literally 10 minutes.
Yeah, I went to Comixology because a friend of mine was like, I'll let you borrow a few. So he like was able to transport them over to my tablet, and I read a few. I was done within maybe 20-25 minutes, and I'm like, oh, that was a great story,
Yeah.
I
did like growing up. What was this one that I read? Oh God. Growing up, it wasn't can we count it as comic books? Okay, so I would go and sit in Borders back when Borders was a thing. I would sit there and I would read, the graphic novels that they'd have. There were a few series of graphic novels I did read, and they kind of helped a little bit through some rough patches. I definitely did read, what was it? The run of, Darkest Night. And I haven't read Brightest Day, and that would be the Lanterns. So the Lantern Corps storyline where like a bunch of them were dead and they all got rings, and I was just like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, everybody's like,
I
who's your
did read
favorite, Hal
that.
Jordan or Hal Jordan or John Stewart? I'm like John Stewart. Or like why? I was like, he just was down to earth. He was a Marine. He was this. He was that. Hal Jordan was that. It was so in my
The
mind.
only reason I liked Hal is because of his relationship with Kyle and Wally.
Yeah.
Um, I don't dislike Hal, but until I watched that Green Lantern show that was really good on Cartoon Network,
Yeah.
he just he was kind of a bland character. Same thing with Barry back in the 80s. He was very much a bland character until they rebooted him now.
Mm.
And now suddenly he's like really great. And I'm like, nah, I still don't care. Watch a whole bunch of people on your podcast fight me, be like, excuse you, Barry Allen is wonderful. And I'm just going to be like, change my mind.
Yeah, Barry's great. I mean, it's like, we all need to find what we need to find. It's like, we all, like I said, being a nerdism or geekism, it's like, we all need to find what we like and then bond over that. And that's what I felt like when I went to the con. I didn't feel, I felt like I was home with so many geeks, and I just was bumping into somebody did some 3D printing, I was talking to him about that, and one guy didn't know about this, I was talking to him about that, and I was like, wow, we're all just fucking in one happy universe. Like, everybody can just enjoy this moment.
Yeah.
And one thing with I guess Jeff Goldblum was showing up like the next couple of days. My buddy was like telling me about that. He was like, I might get in line, but I think just a fucking autograph is like...
See? I knew it.
Told you.
I knew it was going to happen. I was like, wait for it.
Wait for it. Boom.
It's fine.
You know who it was? It was Jeff Goldblum.
It was. You said Jeff Goldblum and it lost its shit.
It's like lost its shit. It's like...
It just went, Jeff Goldblum. Pass out.
I mean, I would. If he came walking up, I'd be like... Ah.
Listen, when I saw he was at the con, I was just like very upset because I wanted to see him, but like I don't got that money.
My buddy was
I don't
like,
got that money.
Well,
I'll admit it. I'm a geek and I'm a fan, and I would love to meet a lot of these people who've made my childhood and my days. But at the end of the day, I gotta kind of think that money goes towards bills, not necessarily everything else.
My buddy Trent, who spent, I mean, he got a free wristband. That's how I was able to go night one of the MegaCon. He called me up. He was like, "Hey, you're gonna go to MegaCon with me for like a night, and it's I got a free pass." I think he ended up spending like $600, but he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "Even I know I spent a little too much, and just getting to parking was a bitch, and we had to pay for parking, and getting in, we went up for dinner, and I was like, wow, I could not imagine people flying in to do this."
I know a lot of people, and I respect those people who do pay the prices to meet their idols because these people impact us in different ways.
Yeah.
I paid for an autograph from Peter Beagle when I found out that he was going to be at the convention that I was at, just because he was such an integral part of my childhood. Yeah. So I do understand on a level, but there are just certain artists that I'm like, I do love you a lot, and I do admire your work, but I just don't have that money.
That was my buddy Trent. He was going to he got an autograph by Danny Glover, and he was like a real true story. So he went to get an autograph, and then he was like, "Oh, can I get a photo also?" And they're like, "Oh, that's another $80." And he was like right next to Danny Glover. Like his assistant told my buddy Trent was like, "That's another $80." My buddy was like, "Well, I like you, but do I like you that much?"
Yeah.
It's kind of like he felt like shit. He's like, I wish I kind of pulled it aside and like told that prior so I could like make my budget, because that's not cheap to get an get an autograph and then get a photo, which is $80. And he's like, I like you, but I don't like you that much.
Yeah.
He's like, I felt like shit. I didn't know how to kind of, because Danny's right there. He's up in age.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
I'm sure some of them aren't really insulted. Like, it depends on the person. I've had friends who've had stories where they've wanted to take a picture and they've gone to take a picture, and the artists themselves say, yeah, that's fine, and it's usually the handlers and things like that get in the way and say, no, you got to pay extra, and the artist is like, just let it happen, man. And they're like, nope, contractually, no. And it just kind of sucks. Yeah. But I've had people who've been like, hey, like, I paid for this picture. Can my wife come in the picture with me? And they're like, oh, no, it's, you paid for the picture for yourself. And like, I've seen the artist step in and be like, it's just the wife, let them in. Yeah. It's just two people. like
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that big a deal.
Yeah, it takes 2 fucking seconds, and they've already
Like,
I did the math.
like the time that you're fighting, we could have taken the picture and moved on with our
I did the
lives.
math on Jeff Goldblum. I'm like, okay, so if like 600 people took a photo with him at like $80, he was already at like $7,000 that day. I was like, Jesus
I bet.
Christ.
I bet. That's why I like sometimes when they'll tell you like upfront, like, hey, it's this much for a picture, but you can have up to 4 people in it with you, and you can be like, okay, well, I can budget better with that, because if like me and my other friends also want to meet a certain person, we can all just, group it. But it's kind of sad, like when really famous people, like, when MegaCon happened and Aquaman was there, and it was like $100 to take a picture with Aquaman, and I'm like, listen, I loved you in Game of Thrones and Aquaman, but I can't love you that much because Mama needs to pay for her Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Mama needs to pay for Wi-Fi. You're already married with like a lot of kids, so
yeah, it's like, buddy, you're gonna make more than what I can pay you right now for your next DC movie, so you're not really hurting for that cash. No. I, on the other hand, am not making Aquaman films, and therefore I'm hurting for the cash.
So another one thing I'm pretty much tied to podcast with this is the magazine you've been working on. Like, how did you get into that? And like, what are your current projects? And
oh yeah, so I'm currently working on a charity magazine. I ran into the idea of fandom magazines very recently. It was about a year or so ago. I didn't know it was a thing. I was on my Tumblr, and next thing I know, like somebody's promoting, like, hey, you can pre-order this this magazine made by fans about this specific show, and you get this magazine sent to your house, and it's full color, and sometimes you can bundle it and it'll come with some extra goodies and things like that. And it's a really nice way to sometimes some of them are just for the artists themselves, they pay the artists to do it. Others are definitely for like good causes, charities, things like that. I got into the idea of it because I thought it was interesting, just because I am a literature major. So I always find like, making a book, creating something, for fandoms and things like that really fascinating. And the fact that people, they literally go out of their way to sit down and spend hours on a piece of art for a fandom that, they're not going to make money out of at the end of the day. It's just for them to show how much they love said fandom. And that they're willing to share it with the world is pretty awesome at the end of the day. So I decided to do one because I thought, it'd be great to do a fandom magazine, but I definitely want it to be for something. And I had seen some Voltron fandom magazines already in circulation, and they were for hurricane relief for both Cuba and Puerto Rico. And they were, for charities like for mental illnesses and, for depression, LGBTQ, all that kind of stuff. And I thought it was really great. And they'd be themed kind of like to their charities. So I threw out an idea on a Discord Voltron group that I have. And I thought, there have been a lot of animals and pets on Voltron. What if we did like a magazine kind of surrounding the idea of these characters and space animals or real animals, because everybody headcanons their own ideas, like, hey, when Shiro comes back to Earth, he's gone through so much shit, he's definitely going to need a PTSD dog or something.
Pretty much.
And a lot of people surprisingly were very much into this idea, so I kind of officially Google documented it, and I was like, here, like, I'm going to throw out a survey, see how people feel. Definitely got over 100 entries of interest. And I slowly kind of started inching it out there. I was like, let's see how this works. I had a friend who offered, free promotional graphics and things like that. And from there, it just really snowballed into something I didn't expect, just from an idea. Mm-hmm. I thought somebody else would maybe take my idea and roll with it. And no, it definitely ended up me just kind of piloting.
When are you like shit that I work on? Nobody's like, well, why aren't you doing all the work? I'm like, I have to do all the work because nobody else. They'll guide you along the way, but they have other.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, people were like, you can do it, and I was like, I've never done one before. So people literally stepped up and they told me, you know what? Here's some links. Inform yourself how to do a magazine. We can give you advice. We can help you. Yada yada. People doing their own projects were more than happy to like come up to me and be like, hey, do you need like help? Do you need any advice? Do you, I can recommend some printers, things like that. So I was like, you know what, let's try this. and it definitely snowballed into something I did not expect, and I'm very pleased with.
Yeah.
I did choose a charity that's close to me at the time, just because I couldn't really think of anything else, and more also because this is a charity that's very much hurting for help because it is based on Puerto Rico and the island, and they rescue a bunch of animals off the street, and I've noticed in Florida there's not that many. Like, you can see some strays, but there's not a lot. Puerto Rico, you will see them on every street corner. It's very common to see dead animals on the side of the street. And I wish I could say, dead animals like raccoons or possums or things like that you usually see in Florida. But no, you will see dead cats and dogs all the time. And it's a sad but very common thing. And now after the hurricane, with families leaving and going to live with other family members in the U.S. or like trying to escape and trying to like start anew, they will leave their pets behind.
Yeah, you guys gotta
and sometimes
when fucking they got hit with Maria, it fucking we got hit with Irma like a couple days ahead.
Yeah,
and then like we got hit right after. Like they got hit. And I have friends that are all Puerto Rico and stuff like that. I'm like hitting them, and I literally, being a geek, I had to like hack my friends' phones just so they could communicate. Like my friends were like handing me their phones, like, whatever you fucking can do, like, how do I get in touch with my family? So I was like hacking through my computer, like giving them Google Hangouts, hopping into their phones, like hacking into their shit. And I was like, guys, like my one friend, like he left his fucking, they had to leave their bird. The bird survived. Like the bird fucking, it survived. But like he said, like they had snakes, they had shit that they just didn't, wouldn't make it.
There are just animals that you can't throw out on the street, especially when they're domesticated, and they've spent their whole life like it.
I mean, they didn't know. I mean, it's a small fucking island, Puerto Rico. It's not like here in Florida. Like we saw,
it's tiny.
We saw it coming up. We saw ours. Like we're getting ready, and I had friends and family here, and even our job closed down for 2 days, and we're like, listen, this time we're not taking a fucking chance again. We're gonna let this go through.
But the sad thing is Puerto Rico is very much prepared for hurricanes usually, just because it's very different. Like here, for example, people tend to freak out more in Florida about hurricanes because they know their houses aren't very well constructed for a hurricane. Puerto Rico, houses are made out of cement. And I mean like cement bricks, steel rods. We know hurricane season comes by and we're just like, it's nap time, know.
We're locked.
But this one was definitely not what we expected, and the devastation was a lot worse than what the media paints it to be. You'll see 2 or 3 like really heartbreaking pictures, but that's not the entirety of it in the least. And I was there almost a month, and it was completely a 180 from what I remember my island being. And the lack of jobs and buildings, and a whole bunch of companies have definitely pulled out of the island itself. And these companies were definitely integral to the economy, and they're American companies that have pulled out of the island.
Yeah, they had to. They're like, we can't fucking. They couldn't rebuild there. It's just not even that. It's like getting the financial aid to fix it again, and they're like, we don't have the fucking time. We don't have the budget. And that's a sad thing that some people don't know. And
the economy is already pretty messed up, so they don't want a hand in helping it rebuild.
Exactly. It's hard. It's not like we're not trying to tell you guys like, hey, donate to Puerto Rico, but like. The shit she's been working on is to like help all these freaking dogs and shit. It's still a fucking mess. And
the sad thing is, here in the U.S., you'll see rescue groups. They'll pick up animals off the street, and these animals, the most that you'll see is like they're covered in ticks and fleas, and they're starved, and they're kind of shaky. But the charity that I'll be helping in Puerto Rico, they pick up the bad cases. Like they'll pick up those cases that are just heart-wrenching. I've actually had to kind of mute their pictures on my Facebook because sometimes I'll scroll through and it'll ruin my day just to see, because the most recent cases, one of the more famous cases from this charity was from a few months back. My dad was very angry. Like, my dad loves dogs, but he never really reacts too much. But this case actually like hit him, and he was just very mad. They had rescued a dog off the street that they found that was missing most of its tongue. And it turns out that the owner, when they found the owner had cut off most of the dog's tongue because it was barking a lot. That's the only reason it was barking. It was barking. It couldn't stand the barking. It cut off the dog's tongue. they pick up a lot of hit and run cases because dogs get hit all the time and left. And there's like a lot of amputated dogs in their rescue group. So they've racked up bills. Recently they had 2 dogs die because they found they rescued one off the streets that had been hit in the head with a machete. And for that to have happened, I just, it destroyed me. I read another case that they had found a literal bag of fur and bones because somebody had dumped a dog into a trash bin and the dog couldn't get out. So they didn't even know how long that dog had been in there. Somebody had just ended up calling because they heard weird whimpers in the trash can and they found the dog.
That was the cat that I was given a year ago. They found him near the apartment.
The dog couldn't move. It barely lasted like 2 days with them. It died. It was just, when you see them put up these cases, it's just, it's hard.
Yeah, it's fucking heart-wrenching, yeah.
Because you want to do more. And it's very common to exit out of a Walgreens or a CVS in Puerto Rico, and there's a lot of them. It's very common to exit out, and you'll see, like, 2 or 3 or like a pack of 6 dogs just standing there, and they'll wag their tails up at you, and they'll come up to you and see if you'll, like, pet them and feed them. And it's really difficult to see that on the island and know that a lot of those dogs don't know where else to go because they've been pets and they don't know how to survive.
They're not fucking, straight.
Or the owners will abandon them inside their houses. Like, they'll leave the house, but they'll leave the dog in the home or around the home, like outside in the patio. And it's like, how is that dog going to get out? How's it going to feed itself? They don't care. And it hurts because if you think about it, an animal is a part, it's human. It needs to eat. It needs to feel loved. So many cats as well on the island, and they're trying to neuter as many cats as they can because cats definitely procreate just as much as dogs do. Yeah. So I'm trying to help out that charity because they've definitely racked up some bills. And the dog that has been popping in and out of this podcast, she is from that rescue group. They found her half dead, covered in fleas and ticks, and she was terrified. And now she's just very much a bundle of love. My mom got her from our vet because I had 2 dogs back home with them. There's only one left, unfortunately. One of them did pass away a few months ago, but our vet works with the charity, and like he'll let them rack up bills. He won't charge them immediately, but they've got quite a bit of bills accumulated at this point, and I just want to help them kind of like relieve those because I know right at the moment they can barely take any new cases because they keep filling up, and once they're filled up, where else are they going to send more dogs? They have been sending quite a few to Florida and further up north to rescue areas to get adopted, but it's not easy. It's not cheap. Not everybody's going to go to the island to get a dog and come back.
That's that thing. It's like people here, they have other agendas and other things, and it's like what you're doing. It's hard to donate where you can, and you got so many fucking GoFundMes and so many things, but like the thing that you've been working on is... And
you never know if they're all trustworthy either. That's the problem. Sometimes they'll be doing things and you don't know. That's why I did my magazine, because I'm like, I don't want you to necessarily feel obligated to just be like you can buy the magazine if you want. You don't have to. You can tell me, hey, I just want to donate a few dollars, and I can set that up for you. That's more than fine. Yeah. But I feel like the way for me to gain your trust in what I'm doing is, hey, look, I'm giving you something in return for what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
For these people. And all these people that I've gotten on this magazine, these over 200 people who applied, because over 200 people applied to donate their time and their talents to making this magazine happen. And unfortunately, I couldn't get them all in because, it is a production cost to make these magazines. And I won't lie, some of the pre-order money will go to these production costs, but I will be putting some money out of pocket as well, because I want as much of the money from the pre-orders and the orders themselves to go to the charity as much as I can. But it's kind of my guarantee of going like, hey, look, you're getting something in return, and I can guarantee you this money is going to them. And the whole process, I will be like putting up pictures and things. I'll be like, hey, look, here's the here's the account that I'm pulling up for where the money is going to go to, and when that money gets donated, I'm immediately screenshotting like, hey, look, it went to them. It's all on them. Like, I'm trying to be as transparent as possible, and I like this project just because I never thought I could do it. A lot of people think to themselves, oh, well, that's cool, so-and-so's doing a charity, I wish I could do that thing. And you think, I can't, I wish I could. And I'm like, well, why don't you? And that's what I ask myself. I'm like, why don't I? Why? Like, what's stopping me? Like, why can't I?
That's the same thing what Kevin Smith always says, guys. He's always like, why can't I? And, like, when I started the podcast, I'm like, how hard is it? And I fucking looked it all up. I'm like, oh, that's all I got to do is put audio on and make sure it's actually up to date and do this and this. Not
like, I understand it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not.
But sometimes you make excuses and you're like, well, I don't know how to do this and this. And I'm like, well, maybe if you find the right connections. And that's what happened with me. I didn't know how to do it. And I'm getting so much experience from doing it on my own and doing this by myself. And it's definitely a learning process, but it's a good learning process. And who knows, hopefully if this succeeds as well as I want it to, maybe in the future I'll be doing other ones for other fandoms, and I'll be doing other charities and things like that. I can't guarantee it yet, but but
it's something you never thought you'd be doing.
It's definitely something new and something really exciting, and I want it to succeed. And if anybody ever wants to look it up,
it's already fucking succeeded. Like, the one day I checked my analytics and I'm like, all right, how many downloads do I have this week? And granted, the podcast has been on for about a year and I've only done so many episodes of it, little by little, and I forget what to talk about. And I've already looked at my analytics the other day. It was already at fucking 2,600 downloads.
Well, there you go.
People, guys. And I'm like, okay, I must be talking about something. I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. I just blah.
Yeah.
Even getting that one person to spread the word, to blah, gives them the hope to create, to design, to do something that they never thought they could do.
Yeah. And I definitely like that a bunch of the people who are donating to this magazine have come up and they've admitted that they've done work for other charity magazines and that they enjoy doing it. And it just, it helps you kind of feel like, okay, you're definitely not doing anything wrong, and you're definitely, finding likewise people.
They like being a part of something. It's like, I've done so much in my life. Let me try something this way to say I've contributed here.
Yeah, and it helps people feel like they're actually helping something, especially to a cause where, Puerto Rico, it's been over almost a year now.
Yeah.
And they're still very much struggling. And unfortunately, since it is considered old news, you don't hear very much about them anymore. But the sad reality is it's very much almost in the same state as it was. There are still places that have not gotten electricity a year later. There's still places that get consistent blackouts. A lot of abandoned houses, a lot of destruction. Even on my street, there were 2 houses that were kind of, they weren't fully destroyed, but you could see broken bits and pieces and windows outside on the floor. And as I was there, the family was just coming back and starting to assess the damages done. It's not easy.
No,
in the slightest. Yeah, and with the economy the way it is and everything's going down, there's still, my mother's a teacher there, and the government's pretty much pulled all retirement funds from a lot of government people, saying, well, we can't pay these wages. Unfortunately, you're not going to get retirement because it needs to go to the rest of the island to be able to pull ourselves up. And it's not fair either to the people who've worked really hard.
Yeah, that's something I didn't even know. I heard about that too. Somebody who said their retirement got pulled, and I'm like,
yeah, my mom's basically not going to really make a lot. My dad and I had to come to Florida for that reason. We've made the sacrifice that half of our family is in one place and half of them is another, because my dad was working for the government and he was working for tourism as well. And, he was a high-end supervisor at one of the tourist attractions on the island, and he made less money than the janitor. Wow. He made less money than the janitor.
Holy shit.
And when the government issued that, people like him were only going to get maybe $300 a month once retirement came, he was like, that's not gonna
That's not gonna put
support me
fucking brand
or,
or anything on the table.
your mom or like you and your brother, worse comes to worse. And so, we had to make hard decisions and pack up. I was one of those people who I had a bachelor's, and 2 years later, I was still struggling to find a job that would keep me there. They always open seasonal positions, but seasonal on the island was, here you've been hired, but we have to overhire because there's not enough jobs, so people need at least some hours. So legally we have to overhire, and you would work maybe 1 or 2 shifts a week. You'd make maybe $50 every 2 weeks. Yeah. And that was just ridiculous in the long term.
It's fucking nothing.
And then at the end of the day, when seasonal would end and everybody's hoping they got kept, usually it would be the men who'd be kept just because they would need people for warehouse or back inventory, things like that. So it was very difficult to find anything steady. And unfortunately, the only industry that was thriving at the moment was the medical one in Puerto Rico. And not everybody, studies medicine. Not everybody can do it. And it takes so long to study to be a doctor.
Yeah, even here in the States, my family's in the medical field. It could take anywhere from 15 and maybe 20 years to finally get everything done. My mom was a nurse, still is a nurse, has all her training. My cousin just finished up her master's, and she's just like, it's not going to do anything, Mm-hmm. She's been in ICU for years.
And it depends on what you study, because general, medicine isn't necessarily needed, and usually it's more specified things like radiology and things like that. Not everybody wants to do radiology. Let's be real.
No,
it's not a keen field to be in necessarily, but it is hard.
About for people that are going to going for Puerto Rico, and if they were going to go study something, what would you say that they would go into?
People in Puerto Rico?
If you were say if now what would they were going for something studying, what would they now study now if they could? What would you tell people to study if they could?
Politics, not just medicine. I know the island needs, but a lot of people who are studying medicine on the island are leaving anyway. So there's really no use in me saying, hey, go study medicine because the island needs it. Because if you plan on leaving, what's the point? Mm-hmm. But to those staying on the island, definitely study politics, study more political. We need new faces. We need fresh ideas. We need to get those in power out, unfortunately.
That's what I've been hearing a lot, yeah.
Unfortunately, that is how I feel. I'm probably going to get a little bit of flack over it at some point. Somebody out there is going to see this and probably get me in trouble. I don't know.
Well,
but
you're not the only one
there's very much older people, and it is an older state of mind, and new ideas need to be implemented. Also, study agriculture, for the love of God. I know a lot of people don't like the idea of working with my hands, being a farmer. Botanist. The island has so many resources, and we've lost the ability and the ideas to just self-sustain. I feel like we can self-sustain. We have so much terrain that we can use. We used to be a coffee and sugarcane industry, and yeah, I get it. We're a commonwealth. We have some laws in place. Things are pretty hard because, unfortunately, our economy is so messed up that things that we make on the island, we can't sell them directly from the island. We have a lot of pharmaceuticals and stuff on the island, like a lot of factories and things that are U.S. factories. You can't produce them and then sell them immediately on market. In Puerto Rico, they have to be shipped to the U.S. first and then brought back, and that's where all those taxes and the extra fees come from, which is ridiculous. No, but I feel like if we could renegotiate, the terms of our, of our connection with the U.S. and things like that, we could definitely self-sustain. We could make our own, economy, our own businesses. Other people should also study business. I have a cousin who's studying law, things like that. Read up on what we can do to change the island for sure. That's not to say don't continue to do what you do. I did study humanities. I was an art major as well as an English literature major. But yeah, it was English literature, but I can take what I've studied and I can write things and I can make people more aware to what's happening on our island. And that in its way, it helps. I guess study something that would help your own people is what I would say. Study something, because if you're proud of where you come from, and that's not to say there wasn't a time where I wasn't. There was a time where I just didn't care to let people know that I was from the island. But you know, the older you grow, the more adult you become. The
What do you think
more
that
proud.
was that made you not want to talk about that?
There's a lot of factors in there. I'm not going to get into all those factors.
Okay.
I will say part of it was, you know, being raised in the U.S., not having the same mentality.
Okay.
Growing up, being kind of stubborn about it, not wanting to have that mentality, not wanting to like acclimatize, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
To that. Part of it was bullying, but again, I'm not gonna get into all of it. It just is the kind of person I was. And then when you leave, it is very much a Puerto Rican thing. I've noticed it's not just me. There are people who live in New York, who were born in New York, raised in New York, are Puerto Rican. They've maybe only gone to the island once or twice. They didn't care for their culture until they went, and then as an adult, they developed what is known as Puerto Rican pride. They like that's the whole concept behind why do Puerto Ricans always wear their flag everywhere and have it on everything. Like, once you dig into the roots of who you were and what, you know, your culture is about and what you represent, you gain that pride, and you want people to know, like, here I am, and you know, you don't know what all we've gone through, but I want you to.
I want you to learn what I've pretty much been going through. I want to share my culture with you.
Yeah, so like I never used to be very proud of being Puerto Rican just because I couldn't connect with the people there. But now that I've left my island and now that I've been gone, and you know, you miss it. You miss certain things from there that you've been raised with. I miss the cultural bakeries. I miss those bakeries that were like cheap, that you could go there and you could buy like 50-cent slices of cheesecake in a white paper box. And the food, I miss it. And you know, I did take 2 years of Puerto Rican history, and it opens your eyes to a lot of things that happened that maybe I didn't want to like accept or know about at the time, because I was growing up. I was kind of bitter about the way life was treating me.
And it takes time.
That happens to everyone.
It takes time to mature. And like I've had previous podcasts, I spoke about all my depression.
But this is actually a point of amusement between me and my cousin. But I used to never listen to Spanish music. That was just a thing that I did. I maybe listened to Ricky Martin and some J-Lo growing up, but I didn't listen to Spanish music. You know, salsa, bachata, things like that. It wasn't my cup of tea. And now that I'm here and I kind of miss that Latin culture sometimes, I will find myself in the car on my way to work and things like that. And I'll have like salsa and bachata radio stations on. And I never listen to this stuff. And I'll just be sitting in the car going like, I miss this.
I know. Like I'm sitting in my buddy's
car. And my dad will sit in the car with me and he'll be like, why are you listening to this? You never listen to this. And I'm just like kind of staring at him like, I don't have an excuse.
Dad,
I wish I could explain it to you.
Puerto Rican, Dad, don't you know?
Yeah, it's just, you know, you miss certain things. Like, I think it's also because growing up there, you're very used to hearing cars drive by and they very loudly playing that kind of music, like very loudly. And you like when you're there, you just kind of go, oh God, turn off your radio. Nobody's like. For real, nobody's listening to this. Like, could you not play that so loudly at all hours a day? And then you leave it and you just kind of like miss it, you know? You kind of like take it for granted. And now you're like, oh, I want to hear it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like my culture. My mom's, you know, white. My dad's obviously Middle Eastern. So I have like a mix of like all this culture. Everybody's like, what do you miss? And I'm like, I miss my Afghani stuff. I miss my German stuff. I miss my Native American shit. And everybody's like, wow, you're really mixed. And I'm like, yes, I look white, but I'm not. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's like certain foods that I miss back down here that like you can try and make them, but it's not the same.
No,
or you can't find certain ingredients and things like that. And the way people don't realize that even in the U.S. in states, like all the states have their own like kind of culture and their way of thinking and their way of acting. So if you move from one state to another, you're definitely going to find something you miss and something that's different. In Puerto Rico, people definitely have a different way of living and thinking and seeing things and acting. Mm-hmm. So, you know, even though I was brought up very American, and I do have certain things here where when I live here and I think, you know, oh, you know, I connect more with people down here because I have more of this way of thinking. Mm-hmm. But then you think, I was raised in Puerto Rico, and there are certain things I definitely wish that this culture here were more like back home. Mm-hmm. So you have that sort of mix of like, you know, you always find the good and the bad, and you wish you could take all the good from both and just kind of like mishmash it together. Mm-hmm. So that's how I feel about it sometimes.
What would be your parting words? Like, what would be your parting, you know, tell people to keep inspired, you know, be a geek, be a nerd. What would be your parting, you know?
First of all, my first parting words are, I'm sorry I ramble a lot.
It was fun.
I also hope I haven't turned off some of your viewers and your podcast people.
To be honest, I don't. Let's be honest. My YouTube followers is about 3. My podcast followers, I have no idea. All I know is the download numbers and the download.
Well, here's to hoping that I haven't like made anybody like fall asleep at the wheel.
To be honest, if they listen to me now, I talk about coding and shit. So this was a very.
But I would say be you. I would say to all those people who are worried about, you know, how people see them or think or what they like, or, you know, in terms of gaming, especially like when they're like, oh, you know, I don't have a lot of people I can talk to because I like this in the game and I'm not really into the more popular games. Don't let that dictate, you know, the way you approach. Mm-hmm. The things that you love. Don't let popular things and the way other people think dictate the way you approach the things that you love. For example, with gaming and Voltron as well, maybe my way of viewing the fandom is definitely a different way than other people view the fandom. And maybe just because I'm not as immersed into the culture when it comes to connecting with other people, you know, people might think, you know, you're not really into it, but I love things in my own way, and you shouldn't be afraid to love things in the way that you love them, or, you know, to explore the genres that appeal to you as opposed to what other people suggest, because, you know, maybe a gaming magazine will tell you this game is a 10-star and you'll play it and you think, oh, it's more like a 5-star to me. It all depends on your point of view and the way you see things. I definitely stay on the outskirts of the Voltron fandom myself because it is very much a divided fandom. It's very explosive. It's very dramatized. There's a whole lot going on that not everybody agrees on. But I'm doing things my way, and I'm trying to do good and show that, you know, I still love the fandom in my own way, even if I don't necessarily interact as much. Same thing with gaming. You know, I do a lot of solo gaming, but that's just because the style of games that I like are they're solo most of the time. But doesn't mean I'm not willing to branch out. And to the girl gamers out there, for the love of God, can we make like a bigger community? Because it's really hard to find like groups of girl gamers that aren't like catty and drama and hissy. And I'm not saying that all of them are. I've poked my head into a few, and a few are not too bad. But definitely we need to like we need to like support each other. And to the guy gamers out there, you know, I'm not saying y'all are, but don't take us all for granted. Some of us do want to get into what you're into. We want to understand it. We want to approach it. We just sometimes take our time and we do it in a different way. But it doesn't necessarily mean we don't want to. And not all us girl gamers are intimidating.
Yeah, pretty much. Also, where can people donate to your cause? Like, what can they help?
So at the moment, I haven't opened the donation page itself, but if you're interested, you can definitely ping me at the official magazine page, and we will get you on a list, and we will ping you back the moment we have that part set up. Just because PayPal's having its weird new clauses thing happening, and we want to make sure that, like, you know, nobody gets hurt on either end when it comes to donating and things like that. Because a lot of magazines are having issues with PayPal lately. You know, like their account's frozen because they have to send their product in a certain amount of time. And magazines do definitely take a lot longer than you would think. Our estimated date for us to be shipping that magazine is about February, March of this next year. And pre-orders are going to hopefully open up around the holidays, so that could be a nice gift for someone if you think about it. But definitely ping us up. It's going to be voltronpets.tumblr.com. It would be VOLTRON pets altogether. And definitely hit us up. We're a pretty nice group. It is a diverse group. There's a lot of us there. And we would definitely enjoy, any kind of donation. Even if you can't get the magazine, it's totally understandable. We will have PDF copies if you can't get the physical because it's a little pricey. Because these magazines, they're definitely not your newsstand magazines. It's not going to be like a $5 to $10 magazine. It could be about $20, $25, depending on what's in it, production costs, things like that. We are bundling it with merchandise as well as an incentive. We will have our PDFs. Those will be a little cheaper if you want to try for those. And if not, if you want to donate just $1, because, times are tough and nobody's going to judge you. We all understand.
Man, dollar goes a long way.
Listen, sometimes I can't donate that much, and I'll just make myself feel better by donating $1 to them every month.
Donation that they'll leave it for Walgreens and CVS.
And trust me, you would think they'll look at it and be like, "Wow, you're so stingy." But if you think about it, if 500 people donate $1, that's $500 they got. So you gotta always think of it positive.
Yeah,
but if they want to,
Walgreens going, "Can you donate $1?"
But if they want to ping us there, they're more than welcome to. And I do have a Twitch channel for anybody who probably decides to ask you, like, hey, she games, does she live stream? I do, not always. It's only on occasion, only because I'm not really making money off of it right now, unfortunately. If I could start making money off of it, Lord mercy, I would be happy. But that's definitely, obviously not a reality at the moment. And I don't have high-end streaming stuff. But if you want to check out the channel, I do have a Twitch channel, and that's going to be Fatal EmpressD. And, obviously Fatal, like Fatal Fury, Empress, and then the letter D at the end. But yeah, you can check that out. There might not be a lot on the channel anymore because, the videos get deleted after a little while. And sometimes I forget to upload some of them to YouTube because that channel's not too great right now.
You got to, it's fun with YouTube. I mean, like I said, my YouTube channel's
But a lot of the times you'll just see me chill streaming. Like, literally the titles of half of them is chill stream because I'm literally just like, I need to unwind. And I'm just going to be here and kind of talking and grumbling half of the time. Unless somebody can get me into a discussion. Like, sometimes somebody in the chat will want to, have an actual conversation, which I don't mind. I actually appreciate them sometimes. Sometimes it makes me feel like I'm not alone and just making weird grunting noises into the mic.
Is that you voice in my head?
I'll be like, oh God, there's someone here. Hello.
Oh, my Lord. So this was a very fun podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a fun time setting this all up. It was a bitch because this is all being put to the MacBook Pro, as y'all already know, and then recorded on the Zoom H4n. So if you guys want to go with the recording devices, let me know. Definitely hit her up, and I'm going to let her sign us off. If you could say to everybody our slogan to keep an open mind.
All right, guys. So keep an open mind. Always and forever.
Always forever. And this podcast is very long, guys. I just checked our timer. We are almost about 2 hours long.
Woo!
Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. Click on her, click on me, give me a like, subscribe. If you guys want to head on to our, our fucking iTunes, give me a like or whatever, love. Say you hate the podcast, say you like the podcast. That way it gets found more. Like I said, you're now going to be a statistic on my number situation thing, and yeah, join us up, man. We do open mind gaming. You can join me and Delmarie. We like being us.
Hopefully we'll be able to make a channel where we can stream together and collab like that.
I would love to do that. It's hard with all the computers and getting everything on the internet. You got to get that speed just right.
Yeah, and usually we game on PlayStation as opposed to PC, so it's a little harder to stream. But we can definitely give it a go. See how that goes.
And shit like that. It's not that
yeah.
But
I'll get you to play a horror game for me that I've been wanting to
Yeah, last
Steve
night we
played,
knocked
and
out the
I'll
game.
just sit back and scream.
Exactly, guys. Anyway, guys, keep an open mind. Have an awesome week. I'll talk to you guys soon. If you want to see another one of these, hit us up in the comments. Let me know. We'll get her back on, and we'll shoot out some more. All right, guys. Have a good one. See ya.